Alright folks, let's dive straight into this gripping story that's unfolding right here on LifeLens TV. Our headline today is drawing all eyes and ears. Suspect to Willis Ayieko's murder was on a buying spree. We're breaking down the first part, titled, The Suspect Detained. But before we move forward, let's make sure we're all on the same page. Let me take you through the setting and context of this mystery, so that each twist and turn holds that much more weight. The man at the heart of this tragedy is Willis Ayieko, a respected human resource director at Wells Fargo, who was last seen on October 20th. His body was tragically discovered 3 days later in Siaya, leaving family, friends, and the community in shock. The disappearance and untimely death of Willis Ayieko has not only left a void in those who knew him, but has also ignited a fervor to uncover the truth. This was a brutal act, a case that has drawn the attention of law enforcement and media alike. And so here we are, as news reaches us that a suspect, identified as Victor Uma Okoth, has been detained. Let me paint this scene for you. On Monday, Mr. Okoth had just settled into a newly rented single-roomed house in Dandora Phase 4 within Embakasi North, Nairobi. As reported, he approached a caretaker, who goes by the name John, to keep his identity confidential, and introduced himself as a teacher. Not much might seem suspicious at first glance, right? But here's where things get interesting. Mr. Okoth seemed ready to secure this apartment almost on the spot. He was negotiating rent, pushing to cover the remaining days of October, and to get everything in place fast. The negotiations got specific. Mr. Okoth initially insisted on a monthly payment of 4,000 Kenya shillings, an amount he wanted to last him until November 25th. But after some back and forth, he agreed on 750 Kenya shillings to cover the final 5 days of October, alongside the 4,000 Kenya shillings rent and an additional 800 Kenya shillings for a water deposit. This move seemed straightforward to the caretaker, just another tenant moving in. Yet, in hindsight, it painted a picture of a man eager to settle in quickly, but under a cloud of secrecy. Our very own Jennifer Harrison was on the ground as detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, swooped in and made the arrest. Just imagine the scene. Here's this suspect, freshly settled, his belongings barely unpacked, as he's taken in by the very people charged with bringing justice to Willis Ayieko's family. Now, as we move deeper into this, we'll unravel what else we know about Mr. Okoth's background, his recent actions, and the peculiar buying spree that has raised eyebrows. So stick with us as we journey further into this chilling investigation, and don't miss a beat. The devil, as they say, is in the details, and each one is crucial to solving this mystery. Alright folks, as we continue down this trail, things start to get even more intriguing. We're diving into our second segment today, bought new furniture, household items. Now keep in mind, this isn't just about a guy moving into a new place. There's an unsettling twist here that raises a lot of questions, so here's how it unfolded. Once Mr. Okoth secured his new place, he didn't waste any time. He immediately went on a spree, bringing in brand new furniture and household items. Picture this, a single-room apartment in Dandora Phase 4 with no curtains, meaning everything inside was laid bare for anyone passing by to see. The Nation Africa team, in fact, got a first-hand look, describing the scene for us. Let me paint that picture a little more vividly for you. Inside, there's a new 5x6 bed with a fresh mattress, a 3-seater sofa set, a table, a TV, and a subwoofer setup with towering twin speakers. It's clear he wasn't just settling, he was going all out. To top it off, there were 2 new pairs of shoes beside the bed, and on the sofa, a purple briefcase stuffed with clothes. Now, imagine this. All these new possessions packed into a tiny room in a bustling area of Dandora. It's like he was trying to establish a whole new life overnight, a fresh setup as if nothing unusual was going on. But for those of us following this case, it's hard to overlook the timing. Just days after Willis Ayieko's body is found, here's Mr. Okoth suddenly laying out a new life with fresh items, not even caring to cover the windows. Interestingly, he wasn't alone on that first night. His brother, who lives nearby, reportedly joined him in the evening, spending time in the apartment before leaving the next day. This could mean a lot or very little, but the questions linger. Why the sudden move? Why the spending spree? As we keep peeling back layers of this case, every single detail matters. What's the story behind these purchases? Was it a simple act of settling into a new place, or is there more hidden beneath this buying frenzy? Stay tuned as we dig further. Now let's move to our third subtopic: return past midnight. This is where the story takes a darker, more mysterious turn. According to the caretaker, Mr. Okoth's return past midnight on Sunday raised some immediate red flags. Dandora isn't a place where people come and go unnoticed, especially at such late hours. Now imagine this. Mr. Okoth calls the caretaker after midnight, asking him to open the gate, which is usually closed by 11 p.m. The caretaker, being cautious, warned him about returning that late again, but let it slide since Okoth was new. The caretaker describes Mr. Okoth as slender, tall, and dark-complexioned, and we start to get a clearer picture of the man under the microscope in this mystery. He's someone who by appearance might blend in, but his actions are beginning to set him apart. Then comes Monday, and the scene changes dramatically. Enter the detectives from DCI, combing through Dandora Phase 4 with a serious presence. These weren't just officers quietly investigating, they came with 3 distinct vehicles, each one hinting that this was no ordinary search. A white Toyota Probox, a green MG6 GT with a sunroof, and a Proton X70 SUV, all parked outside the rental house where Okoth had been living for barely 3 days. Imagine the atmosphere around this. Locals are curious, maybe even slightly suspicious, watching from a distance, wondering what brings the DCI to their neighborhood. The detectives track down Okoth at the terminus area within Dandora, bundling him into one of their cars. Then, in a move that looks almost like psychological maneuvering, they drive around with him for hours before finally parking at his apartment, house number B4 on the first floor. This is where things get tense. As detectives begin to ransack the place, they attract the attention of tenants and neighbors. A standoff ensues. The locals want answers. Who are these men and what do they want with Mr. Okoth? After some back and forth, the detectives identify themselves, but the crowd remains wary, especially when they see the officers pulling trash from a nearby bin and spreading it out, sifting for clues. Inside the apartment, the detectives find more than they anticipated. Alongside Okoth is a woman, reportedly working at a local pub. She too is taken into custody, fueling even more questions among the onlookers. As the search continues, one tenant claims to have seen a stash of cash in Okoth's apartment, which the officers collected. This sudden cash find adds yet another layer to the case. Could this money tie into the murder of Willis Ayieko? DCI boss Mohammed Amin later confirms that forensic analysis had placed Okoth at the crime scene. They've also been interviewing M-Pesa agents, as it was discovered that Ayeko's killers withdrew money from his mobile account between October 19th and 20. The agents are now under scrutiny, as detectives try to piece together the movements of those involved. And, in yet another mysterious turn, Ayeko's firearm, loaded with 14 rounds of ammunition, remains missing, a chilling loose end in a case that's already filled with twists. So where does this leave us? The detectives have their suspect. They've detained his acquaintance and they've found cash and clues linking back to the crime. But questions remain. Why the cash? And why the midnight return? And that brings us to the close of today's story, a chilling account that leaves us with more questions than answers. The murder of Willis Ayieko isn't just a story of a life cut short, it's a revelation of the risks and darkness that can sometimes lie within corporate walls and the courage it takes to confront it. As always, here at LifeLens TV, our commitment is to bring you the whole story, every detail, every turn, and every truth. We'll keep following the investigation, keeping you updated as new information unfolds. In the meantime, remember to stay vigilant and informed because sometimes knowing the story behind the headlines can change everything. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so we can continue this journey together. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next update.